Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something genuinely fascinating. It's that sweet spot where ancient spiritual wisdom actually meets modern neuroscience. We're going to look at how you can literally architect a renewed mind. It's a real game changer, so let's get into it. So have you ever felt completely stuck in one of those dark mental loops? You know exactly what I mean, right? That automatic, inescapable cycle of heavy, anxious, or just super critical thoughts that you literally cannot seem to switch off. It feels like you're trapped in a cage of your own making, where panic or hopelessness just becomes your default setting. And man, it is exhausting. It's a heavy weight so many of us quietly carry around. But what if I told you that you are not stuck with the brain you have today?
Okay, let's dive into this. To get you out of that mental trap, we've got a highly structured roadmap for the next few minutes. We're going to cover the mental noise trap, how science meets ancient wisdom, and then a 3-step protocol. Interrupt the noise, replace the pathway, and reinforce through action. We'll wrap it all up with your 21-day action plan.
So, part 1, the mental noise trap, and really, why we feel so stuck. To figure out how to rewire our minds, we've got to take a hard look at our environment first. The source material hits the nail on the head here. Destructive thoughts, they don't just pop up out of thin air. They actually grow in mental noise. Think about it. We live in this era of just constant overstimulation. Between the endless distractions, the infinite scrolling on our phones, and constantly comparing our real lives to everyone else's highlight reels, well, we basically built the perfect breeding ground for anxiety, envy, and negativity. Our nervous systems are perpetually on edge, and in all that chaos, those destructive automatic loops take deep root.
Moving on to part 2, science meets ancient wisdom, specifically neuroplasticity and faith.
And this brilliantly illustrates the connection. On one side, you've got neuroplasticity. That's the proven scientific fact that the physical brain builds new pathways through repetition and practice. On the other side, consider the ancient biblical call for renewing the mind, which is spiritual transformation through intentional, focused thought. These aren't competing ideas at all. Actually, they're mirrors. The biblical principle that what you continually focus on shapes who you become is literally describing the physiological reality of how our brains rewire themselves.
All right, part 3. This is step 1 of our protocol. Interrupt the noise or capture the thought.
So before we can even begin to renew our minds, we've got to hit the brakes on that automatic loop. It's fascinating how these ancient verses validate modern neuroscience. Take Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. Or 2 Corinthians 10:5, which tells us to take every thought captive. When you look at this through the lens of neuroplasticity, taking a thought captive starts with simple awareness. You absolutely cannot change an automatic emotional reaction until you force yourself into a state of intentional awareness. You literally have to be still to interrupt all that mental chaos. Now you might be wondering, how do we actually do that practically? Well, when you catch a destructive thought, something like nothing's ever going to get better or I'm just not enough, you use 3 micro-behaviors. First, you pause. Second, you breathe slowly to physically calm your nervous system down. And third, you identify the thought directly. You literally say to yourself out loud or in your head, this is fear or this is a destructive thought. By actually naming it, you drastically weaken its automatic grip on you. You're shifting your brain out of its reactive emotional center right into its logical intentional center.
To actually build up the muscle for this kind of awareness, the sources suggest a super practical morning micro habit. Just 5 minutes of total silence. No phone, no scrolling, no rushing around, just quiet focus before your day starts. Now I know, it sounds incredibly simple, but honestly, sitting completely still with your own thoughts for 5 minutes might literally be the hardest thing you do all day. But giving yourself this time trains your mind to slow down, it calms your nervous system, and it creates the space you desperately need for clear, intentional thinking.
Which brings us to part 4. Step 2, replace the pathway. Time to feed the mind truth.
Okay, so once you've successfully interrupted that noise, you can't just leave a blank space, right? We can anchor this whole active process in Romans 12:2, which urges us to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Notice the active phrasing there. Transformation isn't just something that passively happens to you while you wait around. Renewing your mind requires intentional, repeated effort to feed your brain something entirely new. So the crucial point here is this scientific reality. Your brain cannot simply hit delete on an old pathway.
If you've spent years repeating patterns of panic or negativity, those connections are physically hardwired into your brain. To change that default setting, you have to build stronger, brand new pathways to override the old ones. You can't just remove the bad habit, you absolutely must replace it.
And how do you replace it? By intentionally feeding your mind truth. The sources give us these specific, powerful truth statements. I have a sound mind. I will not live in fear. I choose peace over panic. God has not given me a spirit of fear. I will think on what is true and good. My mind can be renewed. The ingredient here is repetition. Pick just one of these truths and repeat it in the morning, right when stress hits, and just before you fall asleep. Over time, as you repeatedly fire those new neurons, your brain actually starts treating these healthier truths as your brand new automatic default response.
That leads us to part 5. Step 3, reinforce through action. Let's talk about small daily behaviors. Because, look, thinking alone isn't quite enough to seal the deal. We have to cement those new neural pathways. James 1:22 tells us to be doers of the word and not hearers only. And again, this ancient wisdom perfectly aligns with neuroscience. Physical action actually strengthens neural connections. Real transformation happens when your physical behavior aligns with the new truth you're telling yourself. The thoughts literally have to become actions for the new mind to be fully built. Let's look at some concrete examples of how to act on these virtue-based affirmations. Say you're renewing a mindset of patience. Your physical action is to intentionally pause before reacting to something frustrating. If you're fighting negativity and renewing gratitude, your physical action is to physically speak your thankfulness out loud every single day. Or if you're renewing peace to fight anxiety, you deliberately practice physical stillness instead of leaning into a panic response. These small, daily actions prove to your brain that this new pathway is real, which actively weakens those old depressive habits. And here is a crucial rule you have to remember. Consistency matters way more than intensity. You do not need to overhaul your entire life by tomorrow afternoon. Neuroplasticity doesn't require massive, exhausting leaps. It requires small, repetitive steps. Honestly, picking one small behavior and practicing it every single day is vastly more effective than trying some massive life change that you just abandon after 2 days. All right, part 6. Let's get practical with your 21-day action plan and look at the timeline. Let's move to and see how this builds over a 3-week timeline to help you maintain that consistency. In week 1, your only job is to interrupt the noise. You practice that 5-minute morning stillness and learn to just name your negative thoughts. Once you've got a handle on that, week 2 is when you replace the pathway. You start integrating that consistent repetition of your specific truth statement throughout your day. Then, in week 3, you reinforce through action. That's when you pick one physical behavior that aligns with your new mindset and you practice it daily. When we bring the whole shebang together, the formula is super simple. Step 1, capture the thought by interrupting the pattern. Step 2, replace the pathway by repeating truth. And step 3, reinforce by acting in alignment. It is visual proof that overcoming negativity isn't some vague mystery. It's a highly structured, achievable process that blends science and spirit. You really can train your mind. So, I want to leave you with a challenge. Which truth will you speak to your noise today? Don't just close this explainer and go back to business as usual. Look at the noise in your mind, pick one truth statement right now, and for the next 24 hours, use it to start architecting your completely renewed mind. Keep learning, keep growing, and I'll catch you in our next explainer.
Thank you for joining us on Bible Brain Connections. Make sure to like and subscribe, then click on the next video, or you can check out our video playlist to learn more about these brilliant connections between science and scripture. You can also leave a comment below. We would love to hear from you. Well, goodbye for now, and we'll see you in the next video.